Welcome to the Dwig America podcast. And now your host, Todd Dwiggins.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're listening. Welcome to the Dwig America podcast. I am your host, Todd Dwiggins, coming to you from the Dwig America studios here in lovely Central Texas. I have to start out with a bit of a downer here. Sorry, I know I always say let's stay positive, but my Milwaukee Brewers were knocked out of the playoffs by the Dodgers. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my Milwaukee Brewer fandom. This will explain a little bit about my personality. I know I've kind of knocked sports in the past, but I do like them, and I especially like the Brewers. But here's my Brewer fandom explained. Growing up in Indiana, when I was real little, we were big, my family, big Cincinnati Reds fans back in the day of Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, those guys. Anyway, like them. And then as I got a little bit older, WG in Chicago played the Cubs. And so I mainly saw Cubs games. And I'd watch the Cubs with Harry Carey, became a huge Cubs fan growing up. Up until I moved to Milwaukee, so I'm almost 30 now when I moved to Milwaukee. Always a Cubs fan up till 30-ish. And what happened was, it had always been my dream to have season tickets to a Major League Baseball club team. And so, being in Milwaukee, they offered a really discounted 20-game season ticket package. So I got that my first year in Milwaukee, which was a mistake for two reasons. But mainly, I didn't know anyone in Milwaukee, and so it's kind of difficult to go and take anybody because I didn't know anybody the first year, and my wife didn't really want to go to 20 baseball games, but it was fun. I went to the old county stadium. It was the year before they opened the new Miller Park, so I did that the first year. But anyway, what I noticed is a couple of games I went to were Cubs games, and I went there, and there were so many Cubs fans, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were really kind of rude and obnoxious. And I thought, why are you being so rude and obnoxious? You're the Chicago Cubs. You're a huge team, huge, income for the team itself, big market. Why are you ripping on little Milwaukee? Milwaukee isn't a threat to you. What's the deal? Anyway, it really turned me off, actually. And then, if you know about the history of the Cubs, they had the Steve Bartman game during the NLCS, and anyway, that was the year I kind of threw my hands up to the Cubs. I'm like, you had your chance, you blew it. Your fans are annoying me, because it was embarrassing for me to go as a Cubs fan to Miller Park and see how other Cubs fans were acting. And so I kind of attached myself to the Brewers, because I thought, no one roots for the Brewers unless you're from Milwaukee. And I thought, I'm going to root for the Brewers. They're the little team that no one cheers for. They're never going to be any good. So this year, as doing as well as they did, getting to the one game of going to the World Series was exciting, but I don't like, it's a natural antipathy towards big market teams. So the Yankees, the Dodgers, those kind of teams. So now the Cubs, I still actually honestly have a soft spot for the Cubs. It's just I can't go to a Brewers Cubs game because the fans embarrass me, but I have a soft spot. It was awesome when they won the World Series, but it was also fun to knock them out of the playoffs this year too and win the division from them. So anyway, but they're knocked out by the evil Dodgers, but that's fine. I have a lot of good friends that are Dodger fans, and I can be happy for them. So it wasn't the end of my world, but it would have been cool to see little Milwaukee make it to the World Series. But it's done. What's done is done. So that's how I try to spin it on the positive, is I'll be happy for my friends that are Dodger fans. All right. Second thing I wanted to talk about today. Talk a little bit about the play that I mentioned earlier, the one on fear, about trying out for a play, auditioning for a play, and kind of checking something off a bucket list and overcoming a fear. So what's going on with the play? Rehearsals still go on, but I found out Saturday that the understudy for Scrooge, which was the lead Fezziwig character, he, as the understudy for Scrooge, is now Scrooge. So he's no longer the understudy. I was the understudy for Fezziwig. So that being said, now I am Fezziwig. So that's new. I actually have some lines I have to memorize, and it's interesting learning how to do this. I thought acting would be a lot easier, but thinking of what you have to say and having motions and emotions and movement that goes with it, it's really hard to do all that if you don't have the lines memorized. So I've got most of them. It's only, like I said, 4 lines and some ad-libbing, which is interesting too. That being said, like I said, I got to get those lines memorized, because once I do, I think it'll be more organic and natural, and we'll see how I develop there. It'll be fun for me to just see if I can do it. So that is the update on the play. Still chugging along, enjoying that. And finally, this will be a short podcast because I didn't do one last week, by the way, if you didn't notice. So I'll probably do 2 this week, so they may be 2 shorter ones. So here we go. Last topic is my grandma lived to be a month shy of 101 years old. And I remember talking to her once, and she said something very bluntly about some relative, something that you wouldn't say. And we kind of gave her that look of like, whoa, Grandma, I can't believe you said that. And she said, when you get to be my age, you can say whatever you want and you don't get in trouble. And we all kind of laughed, thought that was funny. And as I thought of it, I thought, you know what's happening? Because I think that's true. Once you're a certain age, you can kind of get away with saying it. But now I'm finding, I was talking to an elementary school teacher the other day, and she said this year already twice she's had a kindergartner physically attack her. And kids are mouthing off and saying things and won't listen, follow directions. And there's not really any consequences that the school will take. So the teachers are kind of handicapped that way. And it's frustrating for the teachers, and a lot of them are getting out of teaching because they feel like there's no teaching, it's behavior management. So luckily my kids have had good experiences as far as I know at the schools, but I thought, wow, when I was a kid, you never thought about sassing a teacher or mouthing off because there would be consequences. Fact is, when I was in 6th grade, I had a teacher, I didn't do my homework. And after the 3rd time not doing my homework, he took me in the hallway and paddled me with a wooden paddle right on the rear end. Bam, 1 whack. I went, and I knew the consequences. I knew if I didn't do my homework that 4th time, that was going to happen. I knew it. He offered to call my mom. I said, no, thank you. I'll take the punishment. I got the paddling. It stung, but it didn't scar me for life. A few days later, I don't do my homework again. I go outside in the hallway. I get 2 paddles. It stung, and then it stung on top of the sting. So, that was no fun. He again offered, I can call your mom or I can give you the paddling. I'll take the paddling. Funny enough, the 3rd time I didn't do my homework, which ended up being the 6th time I hadn't done my homework, I knew I was going to get 3 paddlings, which would make 6 in all. He said, do you want me to call your mom? Or do you want me to give you the paddling? And this time I had given my mom a heads up. I said, hey, if I don't get this homework done tonight, it was a big project. If I don't get it done, I'm going to get paddled tomorrow. I didn't tell her about the other paddlings. I just told her I was going to get paddled. So, well, you better get it done. So I didn't do it because I thought, well, now she knows I'm going to get paddled, so I'll have him call her, and then I won't get paddled, and she already knows it. So I'm good to go. So I go to school, and I say, don't have my homework. He goes, okay, you know what that means. Do you want me to call your mom? Or do you want to take the paddling? I say, oh, call my mom, please. So we go, and he puts the phone on where I can hear it ringing. And this is before the days of answering machines or anything. And it rings, it rings, it rings, it rings, and rings. No answer. He puts the phone down, says, grab your ankles, and boom, 3 paddlings. But the rest of the year, I never missed my homework. My grades went up. He was my favorite teacher, still to this day. He was my favorite teacher of all time. All the kids respected him, and no one sassed. because we hadn't earned the right to sass. We hadn't earned the right to not do homework, okay? My grandma lived to be almost 101. She'd earned the right to be sassy. She'd earned the right to say what she thought. She had the experience. That's what I think is missing in our society today. Young kids think that they are the ones that should make the rules. We negotiate with children. You don't negotiate with children. That's my opinion. If it hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but you don't negotiate with children, okay? You tell them how it is and they follow the rules. They have to learn to follow direction. And that's what I think is missing in our society today. So this is for you, Grandma. Enjoyed your sass. Enjoy your sense of humor. She was the type of woman that after my grandfather died, she got some mail addressed to him within like a week of him passing away. And she was going to forward the mail to the cemetery to his plot, like plot 32 at Sunnydale Cemetery or whatever it was. That's the kind of person she was. She was funny. So that's to you, Grandma. But for the kids, mouths closed, ears open. I think it should be your motto. Doesn't hurt to be respectful. So that's my opinion, and I'll leave it at that. So thanks for listening to this episode of the Dwig America podcast. You can always reach me and complain about my views I just made at dwigamerica@gmail.com. Otherwise, until next time, thanks for listening, and so long, everybody.